What's going on, ladies and gents? California here today. Beautiful Northern California. It is 61 degrees out right now. It's 10 o'clock in the AM and I'm off work today, so it's a good day. Today what I wanted to do was, I thought, now that I've had this FZ09 for a year now, I've put, let's see, about 700 miles, so I've put almost 8,000 miles on it, and I've had it for almost a year. So I didn't want to do, I always knew I wanted to do a review of my bike, but I kind of wanted to wait a while to where I could just give it an accurate review. You know, like I said, I've had it a year and I've put a good amount of miles on it. I've kind of done everything you could do with you know, I guess you can call this an all-purpose motorcycle. I've done a track day with it. I've been commuting on it every day to work for the last, I don't know, 8 months. I've been on, you know, like canyon runs with it. I guess I really haven't done like a long trip with it. I'd say the longest I've ridden it is maybe close to like a little over 200 miles in a day. So, you know, I've been on a decent long ride, but I haven't, like, you know, spent the night anywhere because I was going so far. So anyways, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about for the FZ09, and I guess really any naked bike in general where you're sitting up like this, is they're really it's really comfortable to ride and sit and relax on. You know, it's almost having like a cruiser bike, like, I don't know, Harley or something, where it's really nice and comfortable. My back isn't hurting after 20 minutes, you know, like a crotch rocket would. And you know, the seat is nice too. It's a little bit different than the OE one. I think it just has a different skin on it, but it's the same cushion material underneath. So as far as like rating the seat you know, the comfort level of the seat, it's not bad. Is it the best? No, it's not. But the main thing is my back doesn't hurt on the FZ09. It's the sitting position's nice and straight up. I'm not hunched over. So it's a win for me as far as the comfort goes. Another thing that you might want to consider is naked bikes, by definition, and you know, my FZ09, they don't usually come with a windshield, at least one that's not going to do a big amount of, or have a big amount of protection. Sometimes they have little ones on the front, but you know, those things don't do too much. So that's something you might want to take into consideration. I know for me, this is a reason why I love riding my FZ09, is because I just like the wind in my face feature. I like having the wind, especially in the summertime. I mean, I'm fortunate enough, like I've said a lot of times, to be in Northern California, so the weather is always really nice, and I'm always looking to get that extra amount of wind, especially in the summertime when, you know, it can be over 100 degrees out. That wind's nice. It's hot wind, don't get me wrong, but it's still nice. But I know that some people have complained about not having wind protection, and it can be tiresome if you are speeding for extended periods of time. You know, in most states, speed limit's what, like 65, 70 on the highway. I don't have any issues with that, to be honest. I mean, when I'm going the speed limit, it's fine. Now, if you're not going to be doing the speed limit and you're going to be riding like, you know, 85, 90, maybe even 80 for, you know, extended periods of time, yeah, you know, you kind of have to like hunker in a little bit and just you know, you're bracing for the, you know, that 80 mile an hour wind hitting you. So yeah, you know what, it can be a little tiring if you're speeding, but you know, if you're just riding the speed limit, And especially around town, you're not going to have any issues with the wind. I mean, not at all. Now, to counter that argument, you might have some issues with the wind in the wintertime when you do want some wind protection, because you want to be blocking the wind in the wintertime because it's fucking cold out. And luckily for me, when I bought the bike, it came with a windshield, and it's ugly as hell, but it serves a good purpose for the winter time. So I did put it on this winter, and it did help out, but I took it off as soon as I was comfortable enough to ride without it, like I said, because it is ugly as hell, and I hate the way the bike looks with it. But it served its purpose for the winter, and I'll probably put it on again next winter. And you know what, I probably could find a windshield that would work maybe a little bit better for my situation, the one that I might like more. But you know what, it came with the bike, it's free 99, and I'd rather put my money to other use besides buying, you know, a $150 windshield or whatever they cost. So let's get into the next part. Let's talk about the suspension. I know the suspension gets dogged on the hardest out of, you know, any other part of this bike. It's the suspension that sucks. And let's be honest, the suspension is subpar. It really is. In some situations. Around town, okay, let's just say this. Overall, the suspension is not that good. No, it's not. Should that stop anyone from getting this bike? I'm going to say no, it shouldn't. If you're really considering this bike, I wouldn't worry about this suspension, because that's something you can always change, and honestly, it's not expensive to change either. It's really not. But I will say that as far as riding around town, the bike is very comfortable to ride on. As far as the suspension goes, it soaks up bumps all right. The biggest problem though for me, is when you start to ride the bike aggressively, whether, you know, that's doing a track day, canyon runs, or just trying to like hit up a corner, like an on-ramp, a nice curvy on-ramp pretty fast. And it's really just, a lot of people have described it like this on the internet. They call it like a pogo stick effect when you're going around a corner. It's not the most confident expiring. I'll admit that. It's really not my favorite. It's definitely not my favorite part of the bike. But like I said, for around town, you know, the suspension's, it's good enough. It works, and especially for a novice rider who might not be able to tell the biggest difference in the, you know, suspension, it's not a deal breaker one bit. It's not a deal breaker at all. So, you know, but it is something to mention that it's not the best. Another thing about the suspension is that because it is so soft, you don't have much ground clearance with this bike. So when I was doing track days, the way I ride and the way I hang off the bike, as far as, you know, going to drag your knee and everything, I don't hang off a lot like some people do. That's just my riding style. So my foot pegs were always scraping before my knee was touching the ground. And the problem I have with that is I use my knee as a gauge on how far I'm leaned over. As far as like when I'm at the track, right? I'm using my knee, because if I go to the same position every time, then I know, okay, I'm leaned over, you know, this amount or whatever. So when my foot peg was scraping every time, I couldn't gauge how far I was leaned over, besides, oh, I'm at the max. So it's, you know, it wasn't a big deal, but I think with some stiffer suspension, it would be a lot better. Let's see if I can get past this truck. Okay, let's talk about the power. As a lot of you guys know, it's an 850cc, 3-cylinder, turbo. No, I'm just playing, it's not turbo. But it's got a shit ton of power, and even better than the horsepower, it's got a shit ton of torque. So you don't have to be high up in the RPMs if you want to start. If you just want to get on it, you know, past someone, you have no issues on the highway in 6th gear and go to pass someone. You know, you don't have to downshift a couple times. If you want the power, it's there. It wheelies very easily in 1st gear, as in you're gonna flip your fucking shit back if you're not careful. So it could be a little bit too much power for a new person, but it just depends on your experience level prior to getting this bike. The horsepower figures, I think it's like 115 horsepower, and I want to say like 68 foot-pounds of torque, but I'm not sure. Actually, I'll just take that away. I really don't know what the torque figure is. So, you know, you're in 600cc territory as far as a street bike goes, like a crotch rocket R6 or something like that. You know, you got a little bit more horsepower and definitely a lot more torque. So yeah, if you're thinking that, you know, oh, this is only a 3-cylinder, I'm not gonna be able to keep up with my buddies, that's not the truth at all. I mean, this thing is just as fast as those bikes. And when I first got my bike like a year ago, I was riding with my buddy who had an R1 and another one that had a Gixxer 600, and he had no clue about this bike. And so I bought it, we went on our first ride together, and he was like, holy shit, dude, like, I'm surprised how fast that bike is. I had no clue. I thought it was gonna be a lot slower. So power wise, guys, I would put this around about as fast as a 600, except a lot more torque. So you don't have to be, you know, fucking 13,000 RPM just to start going fast. I mean, this thing, you start going fast at 2,000 RPM just because all the torque it's got. So it's really nice. The engine is great, and you know, the engine and chassis get a lot of praise as far as like professional reviewers online when the first bike came out. It's really awesome. One thing that kind of ties in to the engine, I'd like to talk about the throttle response. I know the throttle response has gotten hit on a couple times, and to be honest, the throttle on off it's okay. It's not the best. The bike comes with 3 different modes. It comes with standard, which I think you guys can see right there. If I hit the mode button, it'll go to A, and then it goes to B. So standard's your standard fucking mode. You got A, which makes it the throttle response go up. In my opinion, it's way too much. Standard is fine, and B, I actually really like having B for when I'm tired, like in the morning when I'm riding to work or something, because when I'm tired, it's just nice to not, you know, be on off all the time, especially if there's like traffic and stuff like that. So I do use B in standard mode the most. Now B, it cuts down on power a little bit, and standard, it's full power. It's just the throttle response isn't as aggressive as A. And like I said, A is just too aggressive for me. When I went to the track, I couldn't use A because the on-off was just too like herky-jerky for me. I couldn't do it. So, you know, just something to think about, really. Okay, so one bad thing about the bike, well, it's not bad, just not the best thing about the bike, is that the fuel capacity is kind of low. It's 3.7 gallons, so you're not, and you know, I think average miles per gallon that I get is around 48, and that's around town and everything combined. So it's still really good gas mileage, but with only 3.7 gallons, my commute's 40 miles a day. I can't go the whole week without filling up, and it kind of bothers me. Like, I wish I could fill up Monday morning, and then I could fill up Friday after I get off work. But I have to fill up always like midpoint in the week, so it's just something that's kind of annoying. I think the furthest I've gone is about 140 miles, maybe something like that. So, you know, for long trips, that could be a good thing because it kind of forces you to take a break more often. But when you're just riding around town and taking lots of breaks, you know, you have to stop more and fill up, and it's not a big deal. It's just something to think about. It's kind of annoying for me, but like I said, it's not a big deal, and that should not be a deal breaker at all. If I was going to go on a long trip, actually I'm thinking about riding up to Portland, Oregon this summer from Sacramento. I think it's about 11-hour ride. I will probably take maybe like a 32-ounce like container, like a Gatorade container, and fill it up with gas, just to be extra precautious, which you should probably do on a long trip anyways, just in case. But it's just, like I said, just something to know. So I want to talk about the track day I did with it. The whole reason I wanted to get a naked bike, because I had a CBR 600 RR before this, was I wanted something that was kind of like an all-around bike. So obviously it's not going to be the best at any one particular thing, but it's a jack of all trades essentially. And I want to say that's the biggest reason I got this bike, and I think that's the biggest reason why anyone else should get a bike like this, is because you can do anything you want on this bike, and it does all of them very well. You can commute on this bike every day to work. You can go on long trips on this bike. You can do track days on this bike. You can ride, you know, you can easily have passengers with this bike. The bike is really good at doing a lot of things, and that's the best thing about this bike, and probably the biggest reason why so the bike is a jack of all trades, and that's the biggest reason why I wanted this bike, and that's the biggest thing that you should take into consideration if you're thinking about getting an FZ09, is that it's just really good at doing everything. It really is. So like I said, guys, I've had this bike for a year, 8,000 miles on it, a track day, I commute, I've done, you know, decent long rides, and it's just an awesome bike all around. It really is. I've touched on this already a little bit. I just want to bring it up again. Commuting. Like I said, I've been commuting the last 8 months with this bike. I would say the biggest downfall of this bike that I can think of, as far as for me personally, is there is no option to get ABS or traction control. And not necessarily traction control the most, but ABS would be really nice to have on this bike. I have my wife's bike's Ninja 300. It has ABS, and I'll tell you what, it's one of the best things ever, because you don't ever have to worry about locking your brakes up and crashing. Because how many fucking people have we seen on YouTube who are going too fast into a corner or get scared, and if they had ABS, they would have slowed down, they would have still shit themselves, but they wouldn't have crashed. I was watching a video like you know, a month ago, where this guy, he's riding this Harley, splitting traffic. This car cuts in front of him, and he locks up the rear brake immediately and just slides. Now, if that bike had ABS, it would have simply slowed the bike down in an appropriate and safe manner, and he would have been on his way. So I do wish the bike had ABS. However, the brakes work great on this bike. During the track, I was experiencing a little bit of fade. I did put, the bike does have stainless steel brake lines, and I put some Motul RBF 600 brake fluid in it, as well as some Versha RGL pads, which are supposed to be like, you know, more so track pads. But I still was experiencing some brake fade. It could be because the rotors are smaller than a standard 600 bike. I don't know the millimeter size exactly, but they are a step smaller than a standard 600. Get the fuck out of my way, bird. And so for having the same amount of power as the 600, and you know they were going just as fast as I was. This has smaller rotors in the front. You know, I was experiencing a little bit of brake fade. Nothing crazy though, and I still had a bunch of fun that day. Another thing that I wanted to hit on, just for the track, going to the track sake, is this bike comes with the oil cooler standard, and you know, it's probably something a lot of people don't think about, but it's just something that's good for reliability's sakes, that when you do go to a track day, your oil temperature is not, you know, skyrocket high. There's no oil temperature gauge on this, so I don't know what it is, but it just kind of makes me feel good that the engineers thought about that, and they put a small oil cooler on the front so that, you know, it makes doing track days and aggressive riding a little bit safer because it keeps your oil temperatures down. We'll talk about the gauge cluster a little bit. I really love the gauge cluster. As I'm sure you guys can see, it comes with a gear indicator right there, which is really nice. I know before I had this on my last bike, whenever I get on the freeway, I would never know if I was in 6th gear. I was like, I think I'm in 6th gear, but I'd always like try to go up a gear just in case. So it's really nice to know what gear you're in. You know, this is it's a whole digital gauge, LED or whatever the fuck it is. So I was always used to like the analog RPM gauge, which I love because I love to see it, you know, go up. But this is nice. You can change it to kilometers if you like most bikes. You got the clock right there. It tells you a stupid ass little like eco button, like, oh, you're getting good gas mileage, but you know, it's kind of fucking dumb, but whatever. And you can switch through the things. You got the coolant temp, you got your average miles per gallon, you got your current miles per gallon, which right now says I'm getting 56. You got your trip 1, trip 2, you have your odometer obviously, and you got your air temperature. It's really nice to have the air temperature. I like to use that a lot because I don't know, I just like to know how warm it is out. It's nice. The controls on the bike are really great. You have your high beams, you have a little nice horn, your indicator right here, turn signal, you have your mode button on this side right here, and then you have your hazard lights, which is nice as well. Hopefully you don't have to use that, but it's still there. And then it actually goes away from the traditional push button start where, you know, you turn the key and then it's the little button you press. This one, you actually pull down on it to start the bike, this little red part. It's a little weird to get used to, but I think a lot of Yamahas are switching to that, and you know, it's like I said, a little different, but nothing to complain about. Alright guys, real quick, I'm just going to show you a quick 0 to 60 run and just show you the power this bike has. No, behind me, the front's going to want to lift up. And there you go, 70, it was like 72 or something. Like I said guys, this bike has a shit ton of power. It really does. And first gear, you really got to modulate the throttle on it, because this fucker will flip you fucking back quick. So something you got to be aware about. When you're in B mode, it doesn't wheelie if you're just getting on the power. So that's you know, something just to think about. Like sometimes my dad will ride this bike, and so he just puts it in B mode because he's not looking to like be crazy or anything, and it's just a little bit easier to manage the throttle when it is in B mode. Alright guys, I figure we get off the bike real quick. I'll do like a little rev test for you. It's a completely stock exhaust. It's not crazy loud, so it's, you know, don't expect much. Let's see, it's about $3,000 right there. bounce off the rev limiter a couple times for old time's sake. I really think this is a great looking bike overall. The thing that annoys me the most is probably the maybe the front headlight. It's not my favorite looking, but it's I still really like it. One of the biggest things I like about this bike are the rims. I'm glad that Yamaha didn't go with like the traditional like 3-spoke wheels. Like there's actually, you know, a 10-spoke or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. But I just think it looks a lot better than like the traditional 3-spoke that a lot of Japanese bikes end up going with. You got these like fake little air vents. I thought like there would be like a thing that went straight back to the air box. There really isn't. The intakes are like in there. There's no like ram air system for this bike, so they're kind of like just for looks really, but you know, I think they make the bike look pretty cool. I also think that the header right here looks really good for being stock. One of my buddies actually had commented, he's not into motorcycles at all, but he's into cars, and he had actually commented that it didn't look like a stock, you know, exhaust header, but it is, and I think it looks really nice. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a really good looking bike, especially from the back. I mean, the ass end, woo, that's probably my favorite thing about it. As far as like what position I like to look at it, like the ass. A lot of people don't like the brake light. You know, I don't know. I don't mind it. I like it. I think just overall, this is a really good looking bike, especially for the price. You know, these are not expensive bikes by any means. And I don't know, guys. I mean, tell me what you think. I think it's a beautiful looking bike. All right, let's get back on this sucker. Hey, one more thing to talk about too, as far as, you know, a jack of all trades, is I know some people on the forums have even been riding this bike on dirt roads, and I've actually taken my bike off-road, I guess you could say, and I did do a video of me like riding it in the mud and shit. What the fuck is this bitch doing? Fucking retard. Anyways, yeah, so I have ridden it off-road before, and it's actually a lot of fun to do. It's got a shit ton of power, so you know, it spins that rear tire real quick, but it is a bunch of fun to do. Looks, oil cooler, comfort, power and torque, projected commuting, seat position, modes, ABS, fuel capacity. Alright guys, well, I have hit on everything that I wanted to talk about. I'm sure there's something I missed. But, you know, let me know what you guys think about this bike, if you're thinking about getting it or have any other questions for me. I know this was a long review of the bike, but like I said, I've had it for a year, so I know a lot of people review bikes and, you know, they've been riding it for like 2 hours or something, and literally they really don't know the bike. Actually, one thing I should talk about real quick too is one thing I should say too is I haven't had any reliability issues with this bike. You know, over 8,000 miles and still going strong, still starts up the first time. I think there still is an issue of the Yamaha cam chain tensioner. It's an automatic one, and I know that a lot of people had problems with it. So when I bought the bike originally, I just bought a manual one that I adjust every once in a while. I don't want to get into when you adjust it at all, but that's just something that I wanted to buy. It's not necessary, but I mean, other than that, this bike's been great. I have not had any reliability issues with it at all. Like I said, I have just over 8,000 miles on the bike. So that's not a lot either by any means, but I know some people on the forums have well over 30,000 miles with no issues at all. So just another thing to pinpoint. It is a Japanese motorcycle, so let's be honest, in reality, I mean, what major issues are those bikes, is any Japanese bike having? One thing that I wish this bike had was a slipper clutch. It's just nice. It's a good thing for not only like beginners, but even like if you're just being lazy that day, or even for advanced riders. It's just nice to have a slipper clutch that it's not just gonna grab right away the second you let the clutch out. That, you know, when it slips, it's really nice. Until you ride a bike with a slipper clutch, you're really gonna have no fucking clue what I'm talking about. But when I first rode my wife's bike with the slipper clutch, it was super nice. And I just wish this bike had it, because I know the R6 comes with a slipper clutch, and you know, maybe they were just trying to save a little bit of money, but it's just something I wish that it had. Hey, so one other thing I wanted to hit on, I'm kind of like remembering stuff, you know, here and there. The storage compartment underneath, yeah, you know what, it's not anything special, so don't expect to be sticking water bottles and fucking, you know, your girl's purse or some shit underneath the seat, because there's really not that much room. I stick my insurance and registration in there, and that's about fucking it. So, you know, you can fit the tool pack or whatever, but when I bought the bike, it didn't have that. So just one other thing to hit up on. Well, guys, like I said, I know this was a long review. You know, it's gonna be like probably about over 30 minutes now, but I've had the bike for a year and I wanted to do a really good we'll go this way. Sorry about that. Oh, get down. I wanted to do a really good review on this bike, not just, you know, oh God, hey guys, I've had the bike for 2 hours and I want to do a review on it and I know everything about the bike. No, you know, I wanted to do a good review on it, and I think that you know, with my experience with the bike, I think I did a good review on it. I'm honest about the bike, and you know, is it the best bike in the world? No, but you got to remember, guys, this is also a pretty cheap bike. I bought it used, 700 miles on it, with pretty much, you know, I think around $500 worth of aftermarket parts for $67.50. And these things brand new are, I think, 8 or 9. I think 8 plus taxes and stuff or whatever. So I got a really good deal on it, and I've been happy with this bike. I love this bike. I plan on keeping this bike, especially now. As you guys probably saw the damage, you know, I crashed. So it's salvage title now, and it's really not worth dick anymore anyways. So I'm going to be keeping this bike for a long time, even if I did get another bike. But anyways, guys, I want to keep it about the FZ09. It's a great bike. I hope you guys really enjoyed the review. I tried to be as honest as I could. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe if you like the video. I need to start doing some more motorcycle videos again. I've been kind of getting into my car stuff, but let me know if you like the video, and if you have any questions or concerns, or you know, think that maybe I reviewed it a little biasly. I hope I tried to do the best I could. So let me know what you think, guys. That's all I got for you guys today. Like I said, hope you enjoyed it. This was California. Stay tuned for some more awesome videos, especially now that summer's coming up. It's gonna be a great summer, really great summer. Can't wait. So, all right, guys, that's all I got for y'all today. Take it easy. Enjoy the weekend coming up, and ride safe out there. Peace, guys.